Serious, Redditors who have dropped everything, bought a one-way plane ticket, and created an absolutely new life. Do you regret your decision? What do you do for a living now? Fed up with my job life in the States, sold everything, moved to Costa Rica and opened a beach bar and restaurant. Couldn't be happier. In May, I quit my secure high-paying job with the United States Postal Service and moved to Australia. It was the best thing I could have done for myself. My mental health has improved, and my anxiety and stress is almost non-existent. I also lost 30 pounds. I was severely depressed, suicidal in college, and decided one day to just say frick it, and I bought a plane ticket to Las Vegas to live with someone I met on the internet, hoping he would kill me so I wouldn't have to do it myself. It is now 4 years later. That guy is my fiance. I have friends. I have a job that I love. And I'm hoping to go back to school someday because I want my degree. I am happy. That's like flipping a coin and having it land on its side. You got lucky, but good for you. It was the best decision I made. I am a completely new person. I dealt with being the old guy at a local university for a little while, but I'm now more than happy in my work and my relationship. This is the polar opposite of the old me that I left behind. I recently finished school, learned so much from the old people. No matter where you came from or how smart you are, the older people have more life experience. They're also the people I keep in touch with from time to time. Gosh, Reddit. I've been contemplating doing exactly this for the last week. I've been living under my, sometimes, abusive father's roof for the last 5 years. This last summer, I went through a bad breakup, and I wanted to get out of the small town that I was living in. So I picked up and left for my grandparents on the opposite coast. What was supposed to be 2 weeks turned into the whole summer, and I can honestly say that I now know what home feels like. I left once the summer ended, to use my full ride in school back home, 5 hours away from my father and sibling. But I'm miserable here. Recently, my grandmother called me, letting me know that she bought me a plane ticket for Christmas. A few days later, she called and asked how school was going. I told her the whole story, and she offered to pay for community college, to get gen eds out of the way, and then for a state school near her if I were to come and live with her. I would just have to change my plane ticket to a one-way. It would be so nice to just pick up and start over. I would also be near family. I would, however, disappoint my father. Who knows what'll end up happening. I appreciate everyone's stories. They're fun to read and are helping me make my own decision. No question. Sweet grandmother wins out over abusive father every time. 10 years ago I was working 60 hours a week in a factory, sleeping on a couch at my best friend's grandparents' house. I drank nearly every day, was 10k in debt, and seriously thought the best my life would get was living in a trailer, fishing on Saturday, watching NASCAR on Sunday and being drunk all the time. Now I have a college degree, married with 2 kids, work from home as a computer programmer, and haven't drank in 7 years. It all happened because I packed as much as I could in my car and got the heck out of Dodge. I volunteered in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake and stayed 2 years. It was the most challenging, rewarding, and scarring time of my life. Now I'm between jobs, but I'm staying with disaster response work in the US and abroad and continue to love it. Some background info on my story. I was in a bad relationship with a guy, and I had a friend that lived 1,200 miles away that I would frequently talk to. My friend and I would always joke about the idea of me picking up everything and moving to the state he was living in and just starting over. So, 4 years ago I had just lost my job. The owner of the place I was working at decided to shut down without telling me. On my birthday, of all days, I was having major problems with my boyfriend at the time, who I was living with, and my parents had just moved 2,000 miles away, which was particularly difficult for me. During one of my ex's routine bulls arguments, I said to myself, I'm not taking this anymore. I do not have to live such a miserable life. I started packing up everything I could fit into my car, which was about half of everything I owned, but I had to cut my losses and get on with my life. I texted my friend who lived 1,200 miles away and basically asked him, hey, remember how we talk once in a while about me grabbing all of my crap and moving down to city he lived in and start over? That sounds pretty awesome right now, and I'm 100% serious. He basically replied, what? Okay, let's do this. When are you getting here? It took me 18 hours of driving to get down there, but I never looked back and I have no regrets about my decision. Fast forward to today, this friend is now my husband, and we have a cute little 1-year-old together. We live in a nice house outside of a rapidly growing city. My husband and I have great jobs, and I'll be finishing my bachelor's degree at the local university downtown. Dropping my old life to start new somewhere else was the best decision I ever made. It was always a terrifying thought, for me, at least, but I reached the point where I thought, not only do I want a better life for myself, I deserve better and to be happy. This one is my favorite. That end though, I was all like, you go you. Man, this is too late to be seen, but I tried the whole one-way ticket new life. I went to Portugal with a grand scheme to walk across Europe with very little money, €5 a day, and use couchsurfing and work away along the way. I lasted a week, then got caught camping on a farm outside Lisbon, then got deported because I couldn't pay the fine for illegal camping and not having enough money to be in the Schengen zone, and the immigration officials were not happy with my plan to work for free or for under the table tourist jobs without a visa, as well as probably overstaying the 3-month tourist stay, so they put me on a one-way ticket to Newark. I had to spend the rest of my money to get back to Vegas, and lived in my camping gear I bought for the trip on BLM land while I went to school. Still in school, not in a tent now. Finally, a story that makes me not want to try this. My GF did this to get away from drugs and a harmful lifestyle. She and I were both severely abused children with a drug addict wiring from birth. I lived in a big-ish city and she lived in a small farming town 2 hours away, so my chance to get out of that life was easier. The grandparents that partially raised her are very regimented and religious, so she went wild after she turned 18, like most kids from crappy homes do, and she had another pain to numb, hiding she was gay. She dropped everything including a high-paying job to move to a city where she didn't know anyone except her sister. She lived with her sister's boyfriend and their 6 kids in a trailer until she got on her feet. She is now a full-time welding inspector and full-time student. She's been off hard drugs for 6 years and she's out and proud. She doesn't have any regrets now, but she did for a while. She regretted burning the bridges she had and hurting people who were always good to her, but she's met a lot of good people now, which showed her that true caring is helping someone get a job, not helping them numb reality with drugs. It seems like caring to someone who came from where we did. It looks like caring when you can talk to someone about the pain you've been through and they understand what you're talking about and offer to help you get something that instantly brings you solace. And I'm sure there are some people who honestly thought they were showing her love. If she had never left, she would have stayed around the same flawed way of thinking and never second guessed how life could be. At first I was expecting this to be some parody of Don't Stop Believin'. Thanks for making this legit. I did this. I was tired of where I was, grew up in Pittsburgh, went to school in Cleveland, but loved to travel. So I reckoned living abroad was like traveling all the time, so I should apply for my PhD abroad. So I applied to various astronomy programs in Germany, the Netherlands, and the UK, and after some interviews via Skype I ended up accepting a position in Amsterdam. At that time I'd never visited the Netherlands before, so moving to another country where you don't know anyone or the language was kinda crazy, but it was just the sort of adventure I wanted and it was really exciting. Been here 3 years now, and I love it. I do interesting research with a radio telescope in the eastern Netherlands that's the biggest array in the world. I fund my travel on weekends by writing articles for science magazines and get about 6 weeks holiday a year, and get to live in a vibrant city filled with history and culture. I have about a year left here and people always ask me if I plan to stay here or go back when I'm done. I find that rather narrow-minded, as there are so many other nice places in the world to live and see. We'll find out where I end up next. If this is something you want to do, by the way, come join us in our I Want Out. I'm not sure if my situation qualifies, My mum died in February 2012 and left me a little money. I was working as a payroll officer, Ohio as a laboratory technician. My anxiety was getting worse. I was sad. We both hated our jobs, so we bought a camper van. Quit our jobs in August 2012 and haven't been employed since. Our camper is rusty and old, but we love it. We got 2 more dogs and have traveled all around Western Europe. We're currently working as dog handlers for a Siberian Husky kennel in Sweden. We don't really have a plan, but I have loved these past 2 years. Most of our time has been spent wild camping in mainland Europe. Ideally, we'd like to find a little property out here in the wilderness, get a few more huskies and just get by. Last summer I quit my horrible job in the States and bought a one-way ticket to London. Spent an amazing 8 months there with my best friend. Now I'm an English teacher in Barcelona, learning Spanish, enjoying the culture, traveling Europe, and could not be happier. Absolutely no regrets. I mean, sometimes I miss some of the books I gave away, but mostly it's great. 3 years ago I lived in the South, had a semi-dead-end job in a print shop, and had way too much history following me around. I'd been saving for about a year to get out, but had no idea where I was going to go. One of my friends came back from college for the holidays, touted the amazing qualities of insert West Coast city name here, and told me she had a roommate moving out soon. Within 72 hours I had tickets to move. Spent the next couple weeks packing a few things and saying bye, and I rolled out. It took me a couple months to get settled out here, but I eked by on savings until I landed a job in food service, from which I was sniped by a regular customer into tech repair. I currently live with the love of my life, have a sweet job, and am generally happier than I've ever been. Sometimes I miss hometown, to be honest, but never quite enough to go back even to visit. Do it. I hit the reset button about 5 years ago. My story isn't as glorious as moving to Costa Rica or quitting a high-paying job, but it's been no less formative for me. I'm from a rural area of Ohio, and after high school I went to a money-trapped technical college. I graduated just as the economy crashed and found myself working at the Tire and Lube Express of a local Walmart. During a conversation with a co-worker, he asked me why, with my education and experience, I was working there. I told him I was just trying to get by until I could find a real job. He said, yeah, that's what I said 10 years ago. I noped the frick out that day, went to a recruiter and shipped off to basic a couple months later. I've been in the Air Force for over 5 years now. I can't say I like the Air Force much better than Walmart, but the pay and benefits are good, and I've been to Japan, Afghanistan, Romania, Thailand and a few other places I'd have never seen if I hadn't joined. Did exactly that. Dropped everything, bought a plane ticket to France, and joined the French Foreign Legion. It's not an easy life, but I'm content. Mainly because I don't have many better options, but still, not something I would recommend trying though. This place changes you. This is Threads WTF and also AMA. I'm a French Foreign Legionnaire. I've done this twice and my dad's done it once. It's turned out well for all of us. My story. I grew up in a suburb outside of Denver. As a teen I was active in the punk scene because that was the extent of local culture, and there were like 45 of us. Most had rich parents and college degrees but worked in coffee shops or as bike messengers. In short, I didn't see anyone with the kind of life or job I wanted. When I told people my dreams, I'd hear that's hard, or no one from around here makes movies, or they don't pay people for that. So when I got my HS diploma, I got on a plane that same day and I got off it after a very long flight in London with almost no money, one suitcase, and no idea what to do. Literally, I didn't know how to get to the city from the airport. London was amazing. I met some cool people and went to a punk show with them. Met a girl. She introduced me to her buds and they needed a roommate. 12 hours in England and I had a home in a GF. Cool, I need a job. I got a few working as a messenger and in a pub and a bookstore. I met some cool people and got some film work. Eventually I qualified for an artist visa as a photographer and got to do some cool stuff for some leading magazines. I lost my UK visa when the economy collapsed and had to return to the States. I landed in NYC knowing one person. 5 years later, New York City is my home. I make movies for a living, and when I tell my friends about my dreams they ask how they can help instead of shooting me down. 3.5 years ago I packed 2 suitcases and moved from France to the US, West Coast, to live with my boyfriend. We are now married and very happy, but the move has been very hard for me, especially the first year. Moving to another continent means almost never seeing your friends and family, especially with the little paid time off and the astronomical price of plane tickets. My degree does not translate very well here and makes it almost impossible, it seems, to work in my field, so I did not expect to have to say goodbye to the career I worked 5 years in college for. And I also understand that the economic climate does not help, too. I never regretted that move, but it has been so much harder than I thought. Making friends and developing a social network in a city where neither me nor my boyfriend knew anyone has been really tough, and keeping in touch with people I will probably not see more often than every 3 years is not easy. Long distance romantic relationships are hard, but it is also hard with friends and family. I'm a little late to the party, but in April 2013 I left my boyfriend of 3 years, stable job and wonderful friends in Canada to move to the Middle East to be a flight attendant. I was bored. I could tell my relationship probably wouldn't work out. We'd been together since college and we're just kind of stagnating, and I felt claustrophobic. It was terrifying, but the best decision I could have made for myself. In the last year and a half I've been to over 40 countries and seen and done some truly amazing things that I'd never have gotten the chance to do otherwise. Before you decide to get up and leave everything behind, you need to realize that you'll probably never get to go back to how it was. This is something I've struggled with, especially when my ex started dating someone new and my friends started advancing in their careers. But saying goodbye to your old life and starting out somewhere new is one of the most liberating things I think you can do. Last week I was riding an elephant in Sri Lanka. Today I'm in Rome. I love my life. I'm a musician and I was fed up playing bars and restaurants in Virginia. So I decided to pack up all my crap and drive to LA. I moved in with 3 people I barely knew from the time we had spent on The Voice. LA was, and probably still is, the worst place on earth. My roommates were just as selfish, insecure, and conniving as the rest of the people that inhabited that town. So I lasted about 6 months in LA and drove back to Virginia. I live in New York now, but honestly I'm torn about that chapter of my life. On one hand, I had the balls to drop everything and try a hopeful solo adventure across the country. On the other hand, I wonder what the frick I was thinking. I still play music for a living and I love New York. LA just wasn't the right place for me. Dropping everything and going somewhere new is extremely liberating. If you need it, then get the frick out of there and take some chances while you can. LA is a city where you make of it what you bring to it. Sorry your experience wasn't what you wanted. I packed up my car and moved 800 miles away in 2010. I found a great school for audio engineering I'm about to attend. There weren't any where I am originally from. I currently work at a grocery store, have a great girlfriend, and for the first time in my life feel like I have a plan for my future. It's funny, but I think the watershed moment for me to do something completely unexpected like this was reading news articles where someone had died. People who were born in one town, lived 80 years there, and then die in the same town. It just seems like such a shame to me when there's so much world out there. This wasn't easy for me because I've always been a person afraid of change and afraid of new environments. After I forced myself to do this, I have nothing but a desire to go to new places and do new things. After I finish school, I plan to make another huge move to somewhere completely different. It's liberating to have done something I would never have thought I could do 10 years ago. Moved from the Midwest to Hawaii, same deal. Kept seeing all these loved, successful, accomplished people die, and they lived and died in nowhere, Oklahoma. Wanted more. Typing this 4 blocks from the beach in my house. Mahalo. The short version is that I dropped a life of international schools and comfort living on someone else's dime in Europe and moved back to Russia. I worked a high-profile job until I burnt out and then decided to find a way to earn money without working 12-hour days. I now introduce wealthy men to young, beautiful Russian women. I hate myself a bit more, as I feel I should be doing something better, but regular jobs in Europe for someone under 25 aren't great salary-wise. So here I am, in Russia, doing this. I guess I'm okay. When I turned 18, I moved out from home, cut contact with my entire family, and moved to New York after being born and raised in Los Angeles. It was a very hard 4 years of my life. I questioned my decision many times when I got laid off, when I lost my apartment, or during my first winter when I didn't have the money for warm clothes. But it was a huge learning experience for me on how to truly be free and an adult. Some people go to college. I went into the real world. Now, 10 years later, I wouldn't trade those years for anything. It helped me to find and define myself. I hold nothing but fond memories of that time. My poor decisions don't dull the fact that I met amazing people, saw amazing things, and ate great food. From Australia, now live in UK. I've been here for about 16 months now and it is the best decision I have ever made. Can't say my life is completely new, but I have changed a lot since moving over here. I am just about to turn 21. So when I was back in Australia I was living at home, just finished high school and unsure what I wanted. So I got a visa, bought a ticket and have done a lot of cool stuff I couldn't have dreamed of, whilst most of my friends back home go to the same club every weekend and from what I see on social media are the same from when I left. It has made me a lot more independent, open-minded, and I think I am a much better person from it. A lot more consequences if I make a big mistake, so I work fairly hard. Bartending, which I do enjoy a lot as it is very much work hard, play hard. Also I am still in contact with my family and very close to them. They know I don't want to come back to Australia, but as my visa is only 2 years I will be going back mid next year and then hopefully doing university, although most my friends will be finishing their degrees. However, I think I will be moving to a different state where I will only know people I have met in my travels over here, so I don't get stuck back in my old town. Personally for me it took about 6 months to get set up comfortably, which means getting your bearings with the new city, finding a social group you want to be with. After a year, 80% of my life is here and where I am at now. I realize going back is going to suck as my life over here is amazing. But due to not being able to study, my best option is to go back. TLDR. Amazing experience. Changes you a lot as a person. Probably not for everyone, but I think anyone could do it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.